Hello, everyone, and welcome in again to yet another Gone Fishing here on the Five Reasons Sports Network. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe on YouTube. Just continues to grow our reach. I need to start just by recognizing the gravity of yesterday in South Florida sports. I want to give my hearty congratulations to the Miami Heat, the Florida Panthers, and the Miami Marlins. All three teams yesterday victorious to end up April. Congratulations to the Panthers on beating the best regular season NHL team in history. So really fantastic stuff there. There's a lot of sports content. Was just doing a draft show the other day for the Miami Dolphins. So at Five Reasons, we've got everything covered for all of the local teams down here. Not the least of which being the Marlins. And to speak of the Marlins finishing off a sweep of Chicago. Really important 4-game win streak coming off of the heels of losing 3 straight in Atlanta. And 16-13 to end the month of April. You have to be feeling good about that. I would be remiss if I didn't mention Luis Arias hitting 437 to start the year. I know a couple weeks ago I came on here and I said, we might be talking about 400 going into July or April, and I thought that maybe that was a little hyperbolic, but I'm not so sure that's hyperbole anymore. The dude can absolutely just rake. I've never seen anything like it. First player since Barry Bonds to be over 400 through the month of, first player since Chipper Jones doing it in 08. Barry Bonds did it in 04. So really, you talk about good company to be in. It's Bonds, it's Jones, and it's Arias over the last 20 years or so with the highest batting averages through April. But I want to get into this. I want to start with going to talk a little bit about some position battles that are starting to brew for the Miami Marlins, and then just kind of talk about where they are going into the month of May, and what does a reasonable expectation look like going forward, and who's going to get playing time in some of these position battles. I do want to give shout outs to the players of the weeks, I suppose. Obviously last week we didn't have a show, little bit of a family issue there, so unfortunately had to miss last week. But this week going forward, covering the last 2 weeks on the players of the weeks, and the first one being AJ Puck yet again at that closer spot. He's been just absolutely phenomenal. He's given you 6 innings, no walks, 4 hits, 7 strikeouts, holding opposing hitters to just a 451 OPS, 2-0, 4 saves. Puck looking like right now, if you're talking about closers in baseball and ranking, and I understand that it's early, but if you're just cutting the season up into April, you have a case for AJ Puck being arguably the best closer in baseball through the first month of the season. I cannot say enough about how good that trade has been, sending Blade over. And I want to give credit to the hitter of the quote-unquote weeks. It's going to be Jesus Sanchez, slash 348 with a 423 on base, 565 slugging, a 988 OPS. He's really started to find his group specifically of late. We're going to touch on that a little bit more as we take note of the positional battle kind of brewing between him and Avi Garcia out in right field. Now I want to take it down to the farm with the minor league player of the weeks. You have Patrick Monteverdi again at Double-A, just continuing to just sparkle. He went 2-0 over the course of the last 2 weeks, 13 innings pitched, 8 hits, 1 run, 19 strikeouts, and 2 walks for a 2-0 record, an ERA well under 1 over the first month of the season. And at 25 years old, you do have to wonder how quickly the Marlins are going to want to move him up through the rotation, especially given some of the injuries that they've suffered early on there in the rotation. And then for your minor league hitter of the week, we have Jacksonville's own Gerard Encarnacion. Gerard, over the last 2 weeks, is slashing 378 with a 531 on base and a 622 slugging for a 1,152 OPS, 1 homer, 6 runs batted in 11 games. Gerard's been fantastic, and that's something that, again, I know that there's a lot of talk on this team about prospects and how the Marlins hitting side of player development is kind of behind, but there needs to be a really strong discussion, I think, to be had about some of the seasons that guys are having down on the farm for the Marlins positional players. And I think that maybe at mid-season or so, the recalibration, the prospect rankings kind of get recalibrated a little bit, because you've got guys off to fantastic starts. I mean, you're talking about Peyton Burdick, Xavier Edwards, Gerard Encarnacion, Victor Mesa Jr., Yeti Cap at high A. These are all guys that are hitting at a very high level. Troy Johnston in Double A. These are all guys that are hitting at a really high level, and I do expect that to reflect in rankings when they do get revisited. But ultimately, so the Marlins 16-13 at the last recording, they were 8-5, so they've gone 8-6 since then, kind of held their ground. Some of the things to go over since then: Trevor Rogers has gone down. He still seems to be a little ways away, as he has not started throwing as of yet. Brian Hoeing came up. He's given the Marlins 2 starts. He's had 1 good start, 1 bad start. I like the stuff. The sinkers got good run at 94, 95. The slider's fantastic. He's a guy that I want to see get maybe a few more turns through the rotation and kind of see what they have there. Sandy Alcantara starting to turn things around a little bit. Had a better start his last time out against Atlanta, going 5+ innings, striking out 9. He's starting to kind of get back into it. I expect by, maybe next start afterwards, he's going to be Sandy again. The bullpen continues to be nails. You had Andrew Nardi give up a couple of homers in the series to Cody Bellinger, but aside from that, there really hasn't been a problem. Brazoban's been great. Barnes has been great when he's been called upon. Tanner Scott has been pretty good even. So the bullpen continues to be really strong. But ultimately, I think what we're getting into, and something that kind of looms over this team right now, especially since Joey Wendell has started his rehab assignment in AAA, is you've started to see kind of several position battles start to really take shape here for the Marlins. First of which being, who's going to be that utility guy when Wendell returns. I know we had all assumed it was going to be John Birdie. Garrett Hampson got called up, and he struggled pretty mightily over his first 4 or 5 games. He didn't get a hit. But since then, I mean, the guy's been absolutely fantastic over the last 2 weeks. He's OPSing 797, hitting 303, and he just seems to come up with timely hits again and again and again. And he's playing all over the field: second base, shortstop. He could play third. They had him in right field for the first time in his career just yesterday. So you're looking at Garrett Hampson, who's playing extremely well, and John Birdie, who's OPSing 780 in his own right over the last 2 weeks. And it just feels like that skill set of the Garrett Hampson and the John Birdie is they feel like they're exactly the same player. And so for the Marlins, I expect that they'll still stick with the more veteran guy in John Birdie, the guy that's probably a little bit more established in the clubhouse. But Garrett Hampson has not made this an easy decision whatsoever, if there is a decision to be made there. Because when Joey Wendell comes up, somebody's got to go down. And while I still expect it would be Garrett Hampson, you can't really guarantee that anymore. I mean, the only guy that's really worthy of it at the moment of getting sent down, and well, 2 guys, but you're not giving up on John Segura that quickly. It's just not happening. And Avi Garcia, but all reports seem to be that DFAing him is off the table, although benching him isn't. And that kind of leads me into my second positional battle, is Jesus Sanchez versus Avi Garcia in right field. Sanchez has gotten the last couple appearances. Neither of them started yesterday with Hampson out and right. But Sanchez has kind of, over the last week or so, gradually taken over. more of that playing time in right field, and it doesn't look like he's going to give it up anytime soon. I noted the strong statistics over the last 2 weeks, but I mean, Sanchi just gives the lineup another dimension with that lefty power. And when he's swinging it and when he's right, he's just so much fun to watch on the field. He's always enjoying himself. He's become a much better base runner since last year, starting to really started to steal some bases in the spring. But the thing that really separates the two for me is just the eye at the dish. Sure, you can nitpick Sanchez and say that he's got a long swing. He swings and misses at too many pitches in the zone, and you're absolutely right on that. But even when Sanchez was hitting 180, the walk rate was always positive. And that's something that's just unfortunately not there with Avi. I know Avi transformed his body in the offseason. It seems like he's putting in the work. He really wants to be good, and I genuinely believe that. But at some point you just have to kind of do what's right for the ball club, and I think that they are starting to do that by getting Sanchez, a few more at bats and maybe Garcia a little bit less. I know that he started to pick it up relative to where he was at the beginning of the season a little bit over the last week or two, and hopefully that course corrects and it becomes a situation much more like Garrett Hampson and John Birdie, where both guys are playing pretty well and you're just uncertain about who to pick. That's definitely a much more preferable situation than what the Marlins had been looking at in right field about a week ago. And then lastly, you're looking at first base, Garrett Cooper and Yuli Gurriel. Cooper over the last 2 weeks or so, he started off really, really hot, got his average up to like 370, 368, had an OPS well over 1,000. But since then, over the course of these last 2 weeks here, for Garrett Cooper, you are looking at an OPS of 430. And that's just not going to play. It's just not. I know Coop, on Friday, he kind of tweaked his back a little bit. He's been dealing with like little small nagging injuries, but it just feels like we do this every year with Coop. He'll start out strong and then he'll kind of lag back down to where he's in that 260, 270 range. Isn't going to hit for exceptional power, which is fine in a lineup where you've got a bunch of other just huge boppers and guys that can hit the ball out of the ballpark. But right now in this lineup, the Marlins do not have that. Jorge Soler started to struggle a little bit. Jazz Chisholm picking it up a little bit of late. Had some really nice ABs in the Cubs series. Luis Ariz, we know what he's going to be. Jean Segura really struggling. Nick Fortes starting to pick it up at the dish a little bit, back over 200 on the season for the average. But ultimately, it's going to come down to, Garrett Cooper, if he's going to be in the lineup, has to represent a bigger bat than he does. But you look at Yuli Gurriel, even at his advanced age, you're looking at over the last 2 weeks, 316 batting average, an 883 OPS, 1 homer, 3 runs batted in, 2 walks. This is a guy that is not going to strike out a lot. Not at all. He's a little bit more athletic than Cooper. So, even when he does put the ball in play, he's more likely to beat out like a double play ball, which is something that's really plagued this team early on through the season. That's something that I think that they're going to want to work on, is trying to avoid that. But Gurriel's been a really welcome surprise. They brought him in a minor league deal in the spring, and he's looked like Yuli Gurriel, which I think is a huge boon for this team, especially if Cooper is going to continue to be up and down, where maybe you can get Cooper's bat into the lineup in different spots. But when he is cold and when he is going through kind of that slog, you have a Yuli Gurriel there who you can sit Cooper down for a while And eventually, I do believe that the playing time is going to swing back over towards Gurriel, because as of right now, he's just been more productive. And he's been a reason why the Marlins are playing as well as they are at 16-13. Because to be perfectly honest, it hasn't really been the quantity of the offense; it's been when it's happening, and you've got guys coming up and delivering timely hits. You had Segura with the walk-off hit um, against against Atlanta, and you had last night yesterday you had Jesus Sanchez come through with the hit when after Cooper had gone down. Luis Arias with the late sac fly. So this team is pesky. It is competitive, and it's going to be fun. I like the mindset that Skip Schumacher brings to the club. I think responding to losing 3 straight in Atlanta, with winning the 4th game in Atlanta and then sweeping the Cubs at home, was a fantastic bounce back, and it's something that we're going to want to see more of from this team, because adversity is going to hit. And it's just one of those things where, it's going to tell a lot about the guys in that locker room, or the guys in that clubhouse, who is really, are these guys really connected? Are these guys, is this a group that is going to be a mentally tough group over the course of 162 games? And so far, I think the early returns are showing you, yes, they will be. And that's something that we can only hope continues. Really interesting stuff going on in Marlins Island right now. 16-13 April. You have to be ecstatic about that, especially when you consider how tough their schedule was. And then just continue to tune in every single week. We'll be here through the month of May, giving you guys these weekly updates, kind of going through the ins and outs of, who's playing well this week, who's not, what does it mean for the Marlins going forward. And then just continue to follow the 5 Reasons Sports YouTube channel. Like we said, Canes, Heat, Dolphins, Panthers, Marlins. Literally your one-stop shop for everything South Florida sports. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. No Prize Picks games. No Marlins game today, so no Prize Picks pick for this week. But do be on the lookout over the course of this next upcoming weekend. We are going to have those Prize Picks back as the Marlins will be in action. And we cannot wait to keep up with the ups and downs of this season. Early returns are looking real strong, real positive overall, but it's not without concerns. It's not perfect, but I don't see how you can be dissatisfied with a 16-13 record. It'll be interesting to continue to watch these positional battles as they unfold, and we'll be there to track all of it for you. So remember, this same place, same time next week. Thank you, guys. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.